Good morning, everyone. Today is the 17th of June. This is Brad Matheny. We are looking at a pretty wild day after yesterday. You can see this is the SPY 4-hour chart. Let me change it to a daily chart. See, yesterday's activity was fairly nominal. You can see here we had this mild upward day. We are currently trading pre-market down about 2 points. And again, after the big weekend, the Father's Day weekend, the conflict in Iran, and all the other news, we didn't really have much of a reaction to the news, to all of the data. I think we're kind of looking at a delayed reaction. I mentioned it yesterday. The United States is somewhat isolated from this event in Iran with Israel, although there were reports yesterday of some ships being hit in the Strait of Hormuz, I guess is how you say it. But anyway, I kind of am sitting back waiting on news. So right now, my calls for caution seem very warranted. Kind of waiting to see how this plays out. We're obviously up near these highs, and we have been continuing to push a little bit higher. We are outside of the standard deviation channel on the way up, so we have kind of rolled out of this channel. Highlight that here. You can kind of see that we've rolled out here in this mode here. We'll see how that plays out. If it plays out into anything big, long and short of it, we do have some potential breakdown events that could play a role. As I mentioned to you, failure up in this area without getting up into these highs would indicate the potential for a bigger, deeper downside move, leading into my July 18th time frame, which is about here. So we'll see kind of how things play out. Remember, my July 18th low is setting up. We do have where am I? We do have a top resistance pattern here on 617. And then we move into gap potential, gap reversal, pause bar. So this is a gap potential, gap reversal in the counter trend mode. Then we have the time shift pattern on the weekend, which doesn't matter. Close -1, gap trend. So that means that we're going to get a breakdown of the close of 1 bar ago. We get the crush pattern in trend mode, flat down, breakdown, rally and counter trend, which may be a down day, and a rally in trend mode. Looks like these were still doing some calculations when I grabbed it this morning. The bias is currently daily bullish, daily weekly. Bullish weekly, bullish daily. Yes, it's still early, working on my coffee. And what I believe we're looking at here, guys, is, a fairly solid consolidation. Now, this topping pattern, if you've been with me enough, if I come back here to hourly and spread this out, a topping pattern is typically kind of like what we saw yesterday. A peak that rolls over. So in this case, a topping pattern could be like this, or it could be a little higher, or it could be that we've reached the top yesterday and now we're moving into that gap down pattern, that gap potential. So we could be a little off on the patterns in the sense that this could be our move, this could be our top right here, and this could be our gapping pattern right here. So you can see how we've gotten into this big gapping trend, and we're going to see how things play out here. But if we get into this kind of a rolling pattern here with the gapping trend being downward, I would be very cautious again of this, 595 level, really this 590 level. But you can see through Sunday's activity and Monday's activity we now have these lows setting up down here. You could actually call it here, 596. We have that 596 low acting as a support level. Below that, we're down here to 590.75, and that could give us a pretty good breakdown beyond that level into deeper, lower levels. So again, if we were to break down below this 596 level and continue to break down, we have a lot of breakdown levels to go to in order to actually take out some of these lower lows. Okay, so let's just kind of see how things hold up today. Price will likely hold up above this 596 level and try to find a bottom. But this level and this 590 level are very important right now. Breaking down below these two levels would indicate a very strong breakdown. Okay, QQQ kind of setting up the same way. I haven't really looked at a QQQ chart in a while, but trying to keep these shorter. You can see, let's take a look at a daily. Yeah, same type of structure. We're out of the standard deviation channel. We're rolling into kind of a sideways peak. We are still off of these ultimate high levels way up here. And that's a good thing. That means that we are struggling to try to find some extra support. We're very close to new all-time highs here. And if we were to move up into, this area here and kind of peak out, that would be a very clean rejection of that ultimate high. Again, we do have these levels here. So we have, just highlight these, 528, we'll call it 529. And we have this level here, which is 523. Well, I kind of have it marked right here, 523, 525. And then we have this level here, which is 511. And then we come down here to the 504, 502 area. So you can see we have a lot of breakdown levels that could become critically important on the way down. So we will see how this transitions. We're 531.73. We're off 2 points, 0.5%. Like I said, with that topping pattern setting up today, it makes sense to me that what we're looking at is kind of a rolling move like this, maybe breaking down, and we'll see how this plays out. I am certain there's going to be more news. So be aware that staying cautious, trading smaller amounts, kind of protecting your capital right now, not knowing what the news is going to be, is probably pretty smart. But understand that this conflict is not going to go away. I kind of think that in another 5 or 10 days, by the end of this week, maybe next week, it may be somewhat over. Depending on what happens over in Iran and Israel and with other nations. But nobody wants this in terms of, nobody wants it to continue. Nobody wants it to escalate. If anything, if this could be a battle that lasts 5, 10 days and is pretty much over, I personally would be pretty happy about it. I don't think we need this disruption in the world right now. I think it opens up a vacuum, and as much as I have some reserves about it, I also understand completely why Israel did what they did. They're just under attack from everywhere. Okay, so let's go to gold and silver. Silver makes a big move again back up to 37. Gold is struggling down here near 3,400. This is a pretty good move for silver again. And this, if this carries out further, let's go back here to daily. Yeah, if this carries out further and rallies above 37, you can see we've had those bigger highs. Let's go back to 4 hour. Yeah, 37.30. Big move in silver, looking for some real carryover here in gold. Not happening yet in gold, but just like we saw back over here with silver, you get this big rally here. This was June 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. And over here, we finally got it around June 11th, 12th, 13th. So this was, this rally took place in early June. This rally took place pretty much, 8, 9 days later. So I would suspect that if we get a continued upward rally here in metals, we're going to be looking at gold to be moving higher in about a week and a half, roughly next week. And the gold cycle patterns are, come here, blank pattern here. We move into top resistance, gap potential, top resistance in counter trend mode, which would be a bottom support right here on the 20th. Then we move into Harami, inside breakaway, momentum rally and counter trend. So, yeah, really, this area here off of this bottom on the 20th could be very powerful in metals. So, understand that this counter trend top resistance pattern moving into this breakaway range could be very powerful coming up this weekend. Okay, lastly, we'll come back over here and look at Bitcoin 105. This is a daily chart breaking downward just a little bit. We're still in that flagging formation. I drew all these craziness yesterday. It comes down to the fact, guys, that I'm going to get rid of all of this craziness so you guys can see. But it comes down to the fact that we are transitioning through another flagging pattern. I don't know if you remember much of my analysis from years, well, months ago, but we moved into this sideways consolidation right around 100. And we called this out very cleanly through this consolidation. And then we were looking for a breakdown. Okay. We eventually did get the breakdown down into this area here. Oops. Down into this lower channel. Now, you can see called that rally fairly well. But now we had this breakdown into this lower consolidation range. You can see the excess phase peak pattern rolling out, rolling down here like this into this consolidation range. There's your excess phase peak pattern playing out very cleanly. Okay. Now we stalled, we rallied back up, we established a new high. Technically, this is invalidation. Okay, this is invalidation to the new high. Yet, we then rolled back into another excess phase peak pattern right over here. And what happens in this particular case is, yes, we've established a new high. We've rolled back up into this area where we've set up a new peak. But we've also rejected at that peak, come back down, stalled now at this previous resistance level right there, rejected again back to the downside, and we are now flagging. So you can see the construct of price. Remember, no indicators here. I don't really do indicators. I mean, I do, but I don't really focus on them. And what we're looking at here is this rolling pattern. So the whole idea here is if this is an A, then we already have a B, C, D, and we should be rallying back out of this. If this is rejection here, moving down to A, B, we would then have C down here, D, and then a breakdown over here to E. So this pattern here is my likely breakdown. Now, this would mean that we would be moving into a consolidation pattern about the size of this range here. So if we were to come here and look at consolidation, possibly down into this area, and then possibly down into an ultimate low, back into the 80, maybe 80, call it 78 to 84,000 area. And that would be our kind of our proposed outlook for the move downward, if it happens the way I suspect. So we shall see how this plays out. We'll see how but we're continuing right now. We are continuing to move into consolidation in Bitcoin, and there is nothing we are going to be able to do about it in the long term. The reality is Bitcoin is struggling to get out of its own way within this consolidation range. As you can see here, really tightening here. And so here's our C low. We would be looking at a potential D high here. Maybe we've already got it, it looks like. And now that would push us into a potential breakdown zone. So that would really push us into a potential move down here to the downside. So we're going to see how this plays out. Could be a very interesting week here because if Bitcoin does break to the downside, obviously, guys, it's going to come back down to this 100,000 area, 100,500 area. That's going to be the next area if this breakdown does take place. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. Okay, guys, back to the SPY. Happy Tuesday. Stay safe. Let's see what happens with the markets today. Okay, guys, talk to you later. Get some.